My sister announced at Christmas dinner that she was inheriting Grandma's estate, and I'd get the scraps. So, I smiled, pulled out a folder, and asked, should I read the real will out loud? My sister Natalie raised her champagne glass, like she'd just won an Oscar, her perfectly manicured nails catching the candlelight as she stood at the head of the dining table, the same table where Grandma had served Christmas dinner for 38 years, before the dementia made it impossible. Natalie's voice rang out over the murmur of 17 assembled relatives, clear and triumphant. I know this has been a difficult year for all of us, losing Grandma, but I wanted to share some news that I think would make her so happy. As many of you know, I spent the last 3 years caring for her, managing her affairs, making sure she was comfortable. She paused for effect, dabbing at her eyes with a cloth napkin, and in recognition of that devotion, Grandma left me the estate, the house, the investments, everything. She wanted someone responsible to carry on her legacy. The room erupted in gentle applause. My mother smiled through tears. My father nodded approvingly. Cousins I hadn't seen in years raised their glasses. Uncle Richard, Grandma's only son, and my father's brother beamed with pride at his daughter's selflessness, and Natalie stood there basking in it all, wearing that same smile she'd perfected in childhood, the one that said butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. While she was actively setting fires behind your back, she turned to me then, still smiling, her voice dripping with practiced sympathy. Of course, Danny gets some personal items, photo albums, Grandma's recipe box, a few pieces of jewelry, the sentimental things. I know how much those memories mean to him. I set down my wine glass. I'd been waiting for this moment for 6 months, ever since I'd started putting the pieces together, ever since I'd hired Patricia Whitmore, an estate attorney with 23 years of experience in elder law and probate disputes, to help me understand what had actually happened to my grandmother in her final years. I reached into the leather portfolio I'd brought with me, the one Natalie had noticed when I arrived, but assumed was just work documents. Her eyes flickered to it now, a microsecond of uncertainty crossing her face before the smile snapped back into place. I pulled out a manila folder, thick with papers, and stood up slowly. That's interesting, Nat. Really interesting story. I looked at my uncle, who was sitting next to my father, Uncle Richard, before everyone celebrates. I have a question. Should I read Grandma's actual will out loud, or would you like to explain how your daughter forged documents while Grandma was suffering from advanced dementia? The applause stopped, like someone had cut a wire. 17 faces turned toward me in various stages of confusion and shock. Natalie's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. My mother made a small sound, somewhere between a gasp and a protest. My father's expression darkened immediately, that familiar look of disappointment he'd been giving me since I was 12. Daniel, he said, his voice tight with warning, this is not the time or the place for whatever grievance you think you have. But I'd spent 6 months preparing for this moment, 6 months investigating, documenting, collecting evidence, 6 months watching my sister parade around as the devoted granddaughter. While I knew the truth about what she'd done, I wasn't stopping now. I opened the folder, spreading papers across the table, pushing aside wine glasses and bread plates. These are medical records from Grandma's neurologist, Dr. Raymond Foster. He diagnosed her with moderate to severe Alzheimer's disease in March of 2021. That's 4 years ago, according to his notes. By the summer of 2022, she lacked the mental capacity to understand complex legal documents or make informed financial decisions. Natalie's face had gone very pale. She set down her glass with a hand that wasn't quite steady. That's private medical information. You had no right to access those records. Her voice was sharp now, the sugary sympathy evaporating, and it's completely irrelevant. Grandma had good days and bad days. Anyone who spent time with her knows that. I pulled out another document. This is a power of attorney form, dated August 15th, 2022. Grandma supposedly signed it, giving you complete control over her financial and medical decisions, except the signature doesn't match any of Grandma's known signatures from that period. I slid a comparison sheet across the table, showing 6 different signatures, 5 from checks and documents, dated 2020 to 2021, shaky but consistent in their formation. The 6th, from the power of attorney, was different, smoother, more controlled, written by someone whose hand didn't tremble from neurological deterioration. I had this analyzed by Leonard Ashford, a forensic document examiner with 30 years of experience, testifying in court. His professional opinion is that this signature is a forgery. My uncle stood up so fast, his chair nearly tipped over. That's a serious accusation, Daniel. You're saying my daughter forged your grandmother's signature? But his voice had lost its certainty. He was looking at Natalie now, really looking at her, and I could see the first seeds of doubt taking root in his expression. My father remained seated, his lawyer's mind already analyzing the evidence I'd laid out, his face growing colder by the second. Full story is linked below or on my channel.